Oh, goody. The Last Stand. As they say, legends never die, and my god, these games are no exception. These three games are probably the first thing that comes to mind whenever I think about childhood games, at least from the Flash era. I'd like to think that these three were at least somewhat responsible for the horror/zombie craze that plagues my heart even today. Matthew McCoy. They are god tier in my mind and forever will be. Most people who I've heard talk about this franchise will say that either the first or second one is their favorite. However, mine is actually Union City. Like, this shit was the game in my childhood. While the first two were far from being bad, I was never really a fan of these types of tower defense-esque games, as in the games that kind of just placed you in one location and said, okay, now shoot. Union City was what I believe to be the first game in the franchise that actually allowed you to traverse the world on your own, and I loved that shit. It was also the first to allow full customization of your character, and because this was before I knew what a AAA title even was, this was huge. Not only could you customize your character appearance-wise, you could level up your character based on your playstyle and preferences in the skill tree. I look like a fucking sex offender, this is depressing. You could have your character look like some random ass dude in a white tee called Joe McCrackenpiddle, who's good at using blunt weapons and running away from things. Or you could have them be just a complete zombie killing menace. There's also a wide ass array of different weapons you could acquire throughout. Now, sure, the first two also had quite a few weapons to choose from, but neither of them came even close to what UC had. Now, I could go on and on and on about how great these three games were, but the question still stands. Are they really as good as I remember them being? Well, let's find out, shall we? Quick disclaimer, I'm only going to be playing the first and third installment. This means Last Stand 1 and Last Stand Union City, due to time reasons or something like that, I don't know.
Are you fucking nuts?
The first game was surprisingly buggy, and this also applies to Union City, but we'll get to that, okay? And I don't know if this was maybe just on my end, but reinstalling the game definitely didn't help, so I don't know. I also messed around with the settings quite a bit, but it never really did anything. UC mostly suffered from just really bad lag, and sometimes the animations would also break, but there was a couple other problems that I ran into that we will again get to momentarily. I didn't play much of the first game since it seemed to bug out constantly, and also I just couldn't beat the second level for some reason. Maybe I just suck. Oh wait, it just bugged. Hold on. My mouse just doesn't work. That's what's going on. I can't shoot. Union City was alright. I think the fact that the game I was playing was such a classic definitely helped, but man was it buggy. I guess I'll talk about them so we can get all the bad shit out of the way quickly. The biggest problem was probably the fact that the game was sometimes just completely shit itself when it came to FPS. If there was more than maybe 4 or 5 zombies on screen, it would again occasionally just completely die on me, and it would be nearly impossible to do anything. Also, companions would just switch back to their default weapons whenever I went into a new part of town. Did Kelly run out of ammo? Does Kelly actually have... And I never got him back. This was really annoying since Kelly only has a knife and Hank's rifle is really bad. Why is he not shooting? Another thing that happened fairly frequently was the fact that my character would sometimes just continue walking in a direction for a little bit even after I've let go of the button. And then we get to the animations. This wasn't as game-breaking, of course, this was mostly just a visual thing. And it was quite funny sometimes as the zombies would just glide along the ground. But it is still a bug, so I'll mention it. And that's it. Or basically it. Those were the bigger bugs that kind of stuck out at least. But there were more, definitely, don't worry. Now that we've talked about the bugs, let's talk about the actual game. And the main thing that I want to answer is, does it hold up? As in, is it still worth a play even today? And, well, the quick answer to that is yes. but I'm going to go a little bit more in depth and talk about what this game has to offer and what I found cool about it. There's a bunch of different areas to explore and loot. Nearly every building has its own story, sometimes in the form of notes you can find throughout, or sometimes in the form of actual characters you can meet and interact with. These characters will give you missions, which will sometimes yield you cool weapons or new lore. I like when games give you optional stuff, it gives it that good replay value, and this game definitely has that. The main story, when focused on, is quite short, all things considered, so it's good to have other characters and etc. to save or talk to or find. I ended up skipping a lot of the buildings near the final stretch in the game, as I just wanted to get to the end so I didn't make the recording too long, but if I ended up looking through every building, it probably would have taken me another hour or so to beat the game. Hell, maybe more. I'm not gonna spoil anything in case anyone cares, I guess, but the story is quite an average one, maybe even painfully average, and I'm talking about the main story here. Although I suppose most people would just play this for the sake of playing it and not for the actual storyline, I still gotta mention it since it's there, you know? The combat in this game is not bad. It's not groundbreaking shit, but it's not bad. The gunplay feels good and the melee feels even better. One thing I am nitpicky about is the fact that after you're like halfway into the game, you can pretty much just forget about melee if you wanted to. Like, I was just running and gunning at one point, which again, shooting does feel kind of satisfying, so maybe that's not a bad thing depending on the person you ask, I suppose. I chose the hunter occupation at the start of the game, which gives you a boost in rifles, but I ended up not using rifles practically at all. I did use shotguns for a while though, since it was the only good gun I had at the time, and that technically goes under rifles in this game, but the actual snipers and etc. were so ass that I just couldn't. Like, how am I missing these shots? By the halfway mark, I was basically just constantly using SMGs, and occasionally I would switch to melee so I wouldn't burn through my ammo too fast. It did feel satisfying to mow down a bunch of ammos with a UMP though, so I'll give you that. The AI is quite, decent-ish, to say the least. I'm not necessarily gonna sit here and talk shit about it, considering it is a Flash game, and I feel as though the creators wanted to keep it the exact same as it was, to give it that extra bit of nostalgia, which I respect. And when the animations borked up, it was quite funny, to be fair. The only real annoying thing that happened was when the companions kept switching back to their default weapons, which I'm fairly certain wasn't a thing in the original Flash game, but prove me wrong if you can, I guess. Another thing I wasn't a huge fan of was the horde events, or whatever they're called, I guess. Basically, if you're in a building, zombies would just randomly drop down from the ceiling and swarm you, and if you were outside, they would just run at you from a specific direction. I probably wouldn't have a problem with this if it didn't happen so goddamn often. Although it's probably just so you don't complete the game too fast, as again it is quite short and like really easy. The difficulty is painfully easy, and this was on the survivor mode. But then again, this is maybe a bit biased since I'm a person who likes a challenge when it comes to games like this. Part of the reason why I love projectzomboid so much is because of how damn difficult that game is. But still, I feel as though the game's idea of difficult is just enemy spamming a room. Like, explain to me why a random ass 2-room apartment has about 15 people in it. But I suppose Left 4 Dead technically is pretty much the same way, and no one seems to have complained about that game, so with all that being said, let's go back to the original question. Is it still worth a play in 2021? And well, I guess I already gave you the answer to that, so yes, it is still worth a play. I know it may have seemed like I was really reaching for things to complain about, but I just wanted to point things out that may or may not possibly disappoint new players, for example. This doesn't, however, mean that I think the game is bad or anything like that. It's an old game, and a Flash game at that. I still thoroughly enjoyed playing through these 3 games again, and I would just like to thank the creators for even putting this up on the Steam store. The amount of nostalgia and good memories that came back to me while playing this was insane, and I am really happy that I got to experience it once more. But even if you've never played or maybe even heard of the series, first of all, how? And second of all, go play it. It's great. These games are monumental when it comes to my childhood. Right up there with CS, Madness Combat, the Thing Arena games, and a ton more. They will forever live on in my heart as memories, and good ones at that. With that being said, before this video comes to its wholesome conclusion, I would just like to take this moment to thank everyone who watched this video till the end. I really hope you share the same good thoughts and feelings about these games as I do, and I hope that if you didn't know about the series before this video, that you will go and give it a shot. Trust me, it is worth it. Anyway, thank you for watching and have a fantastic rest of your day. Bye guys. Oh, PP pistol. Oh fuck yeah, dude. Oh, I love me a good PP pistol.